What if I told you there's something in Lake Superior that drags ships to the bottom and never lets them go? November 10, 1975, 7:10 p.m. Captain McSorley's last words crackled over the radio. We are holding our own. 5 minutes later, the Edmund Fitzgerald, the largest, most powerful ship on the Great Lakes, vanished. All 29 crew members disappeared with her into Lake Superior's icy depths. No distress call, no mayday, no survivors. Then Canadian singer Gordon Lightfoot wrote a haunting ballad that made the disaster legendary. His song climbed to number 2 on the Billboard charts and turned an unknown shipwreck into a cultural phenomenon. But here's what will haunt you. 50 years later, we still don't know what took her down. Was it the legendary Three Sisters monster waves that swallow ships whole? Did she hit something lurking beneath the surface? Or did Lake Superior itself claim her, as the old sailors say it always does? This is the mystery that refuses to die. When the Edmund Fitzgerald launched on June 8, 1958, she was a monster 729 feet of steel, the biggest object ever dropped into fresh water. They called her the Queen of the Lakes, the pride of the American side, but she was more than just size. Inside, she was a floating palace with leather chairs, carpeted lounges, and tiled bathrooms. Captain Peter Pulser would pipe music over the speakers as she passed through locks, entertaining thousands of spectators. The Fitz wasn't just a cargo ship, she was a celebrity. For 17 years, she hauled taconite ore from Minnesota to Detroit. She set records, broke her own records, and sailed through storms that would terrify most captains. Captain Ernest McSorley, with 44 years on the Great Lakes, commanded her final voyage. He'd seen it all, or so he thought. By 1975, the Fitz was scheduled for retirement. She'd been worked hard, sailed hard, pushed to her limits. Some say she was tired. Others say Lake Superior was waiting for one more chance. The old sailors have a saying, Lake Superior never gives up her dead when the skies of November turn gloomy. It's not superstition, it's a warning. On November 9, 1975, the Edmund Fitzgerald departed Superior, Wisconsin with over 26,000 tons of taconite pellets, 29 men aboard. One final run before winter shut down the shipping season. Another ship, the Arthur M. Anderson, followed behind. Her captain, Bernie Cooper, stayed in radio contact with McSorley. The forecast warned of a storm, but nothing unusual for November. Both captains had weathered worse. By November 10th, everything changed. Winds screamed to 70 miles per hour. Waves built to 25 to 35 feet, some say higher. Snow and spray turned visibility to zero. The ships fought through what sailors call November witches, the deadliest storms on the Great Lakes. At 1 p.m., McSorley radioed Cooper, I have a fence rail down, 2 vents lost, and a list. A fence rail down? That's the protective railing on deck. If that was gone, something terrible had happened topside. At 3:30 p.m., we're rolling badly, lost both radars. The Fitzgerald was sailing blind in the worst storm in years. At 4:10 p.m., Cooper's radar showed the Fitz heading straight toward Caribou Island's deadly shoals. He tried to warn McSorley, but the Fitzgerald had already changed course. Had she hit bottom? Was her hull torn open? McSorley didn't say. At 7:10 p.m., Cooper radioed one last time. Edmund Fitzgerald, how are you making out? McSorley's tired voice, we are holding our own. At 7:15 p.m., the Edmund Fitzgerald disappeared from radar. Cooper called again. Silence. Again, nothing. The largest ship on the Great Lakes had vanished like a ghost. The Coast Guard launched the biggest search in Great Lakes history. They found debris, life jackets, and pieces of a lifeboat, but no survivors. No bodies. 4 days later, Navy planes detected something on the lake bottom, 17 miles from Whitefish Point. Underwater cameras went down. What they saw was impossible. The Edmund Fitzgerald had broken into 2 massive pieces, lying 530 feet down. The bow section sat upright, as if still sailing. The stern section lay upside down, 170 feet away. But here's what terrified investigators. The middle 200 feet of the ship had disintegrated, gone, scattered across the lake bottom like it had exploded. What force could do that to 13,000 tons of steel? All 29 crew members were gone. Their bodies remain with the ship to this day. In 1995, divers recovered the ship's 200-pound bronze bell, replacing it with a replica bearing the names of the lost crew. The original bell now sits in the Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum as a memorial. The Edmund Fitzgerald is a grave, protected by law. 50 years later, 3 questions haunt everyone. First, what broke the ship in half? The Three Sisters theory suggests 3 massive waves hit in rapid succession. The first wave buries the bow, the next 2 push it deeper until the ship drives straight to the bottom and breaks apart from the impact. Second, did she hit Caribou Island? Radar showed the Fitzgerald came dangerously close to shallow water. Some believe she struck bottom, tearing open her hull. For 3 hours, water slowly flooded in. The ship's list supports this, but McSorley never said how bad it was. Third, did the cargo hatches fail? Divers found evidence that some hatch clamps were damaged. If one hatch broke open, thousands of gallons of water would flood the hold, turning the taconite ore into cement. The ship would get heavier and heavier until she couldn't float. The truth? It might be all 3. A damaged ship in the worst storm, hit by monster waves. The perfect storm of disasters. 3 weeks after the sinking, Canadian singer Gordon Lightfoot read a Newsweek article that haunted him. He spent 2 weeks writing The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, a 6-minute ballad. His label said it was too long for radio. They were wrong. Released in 1976, the song climbed to number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. It played on every station. Lightfoot's haunting lyrics, "The lake, it is said, never gives up her dead when the skies of November turn gloomy," became forever linked to the tragedy. Without that song, the Edmund Fitzgerald would be forgotten. Instead, she became as famous as the Titanic. The families had mixed feelings, but there's no denying its impact. Every November 10th at 7:10 p.m., the Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum rings the bell 29 times, once for each lost soul. The Edmund Fitzgerald disaster changed Great Lakes shipping forever. New regulations, better equipment, improved safety. No major freighter has been lost since. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into business and marketing.